Okay, and we are recording right now. So, welcome everyone to today's AMA. This is the first AMA of September. And today we are going to talk about some announcements that we have, updates, and have an overall conversation. This is, of course, being recorded, and we will put this on YouTube later on. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the stage Q&A as always. Our guest today, you should be pretty familiar with. We have our founder and CEO, Gary, with us. But today we also have Gauss' very own CTO. Oh, wrong one. Hold on a second. All right.
That was
So he
perfect.
stands at 5'10", hailing from University of Florida. His first job was an assistant kitchen manager, and now he is a lead developer. So everyone, I want you guys to give a warm welcome to Austin McCall.
Hey, how did I lose 2 inches, though? I'm curious about that
Oh my God, what'd you say?
one. How did I lose 2 inches? When did that happen?
I just made a guesstimation on how tall you are, but I'm sorry if I offended you.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, so we went from, not doing an intro for us to doing a full 180 because he said he had trumpets and applause on a soundboard.
I mean, I have to if I had that kind of power, so why not?
Yeah, you have the tools, use them. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Really looking forward to, sharing a bunch of information with you guys. We've been hard at work behind the scenes. Our team is rapidly expanding. So yeah, we have all sorts of awesome stuff. Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm just getting over that. That was friggin' hilarious. Do you like trumpets, Austin?
That's a fantastic intro. Trumpets and the drums.
Yeah.
Great.
I could have made
Almost
it
a
a
whole
little bit
band.
better, but yeah.
Well, the first thing, to kick us off today, Austin, did you have that queued up? Did you hit the button?
Process right now.
So Austin is hitting a button right now, and for today's AMA, we're doing another 50 million sphere burn. So we still have a bunch more sphere to burn between now and launch. Definitely looking forward to working with those guys more. They're just executing at breakneck paces and launching all sorts of stuff. So that's just a small thing for today. Just 50 million sphere burned. I'm not even sure what the price is right now. Let's see.
Well, I just dropped the transaction hash in the stage Q&A. I guess I probably dropped it in the stage board as well. But 50 million burned.
That's what? That's another 250,000 worth, I think. Yeah, about 260,000. I think that might put him over 800 million sphere burns so far. If anyone wants to go harass Sphere during this AMA and, drop that sphere burn image, feel free. But yeah.
To steal Sim's line, probably nothing.
Yeah, probably nothing. Well, it's just a crypto general line. Probably nothing. But I guess to start for the first chunk of this AMA after, a celebratory sphere burn, we could talk about some of the things we're going to be doing with Iron NFTs. I know a lot of people are interested in what our pricing schedule will look like. So we have that. I'm going to go ahead and drop that image in the board as well. Do we have anyone copying them from the board over to QA channel? Not yet. So I'll drop it here as well. Wrong thing. There. So for the Ferro cards, the first price increase is actually going to be this Friday, the 9th, going up to 120, and then every 2 weeks after that, going up another $10. So it'll hit 150 on October 21st. So that's part of this whole plan that we've been working on this whole time. The 110 price is the pre-sale price. right? You guys are, those who have already gotten them have gotten them at that quote unquote pre-sale price, the discount. Those who get them before Friday, you're still getting them at that discount. And on the back of that, I'll go ahead and drop this as well. That the first 10 50X holders got, Ferret, our very first 50X holder, got a cobalt. And then after that, everyone else got a nickel NFT and some iron NFTs. The next 20 50X holders are going to get 2 more iron. And then the 20 after that will get 1X iron. So, man, I keep trying to copy and paste, and I just have that link for this event in my clipboard. So that's some of the info about the Iron Ferro cards. The nickel and cobalt will have more info coming out soon about whether we're going to be launching nickel before Gauss launches. If we're going to wait till after Gauss launches, we'll have that information probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks. But I'm really looking forward to that. Do you have anything to say, Austin?
No, you're dropping all the alpha right now.
Well, I'm not. We have a whole ass hour and change or 75 minutes, so I don't want to drop it all immediately. Oh, okay. We can talk about this. If anyone has questions or anything about the Iron NFTs or anything else, you're welcome to ask them, and we'll probably interject some questions as we go through this one too, if that's cool with you, Alex.
Yes, of course.
Right. Alex did release our Gauss and Obsidian video today. That's up on YouTube. So hopefully some of you guys saw that already. If not, definitely go check that out. It also covers, what that part of our vetting process is, KYB with Obsidian. So definitely check that out. No one has any questions about Iron NFTs? Man, I figured there'd be something.
On that note, I did just change the mint price, so you guys get in while you can. It's going to change this Friday.
Yeah, we can answer that one. That's a good place. See, I feel like I'm going to go too fast-paced with dropping alpha. That's why I want to break it up with some questions. So I saw Osaz just asked, how long have you and the core team been working on Gauss, and what prompted or brought about the idea of Gauss? So we've been working on it since early last year, in its early conceptual stages and everything else, building out the team, the plan, the idea, the vision, all that stuff. That's a lot of what the very early development, I think, of any project is. The idea that brought it about, there's a couple different things. Austin and I had been talking about, doing something in the space. I've been in and out of the crypto world for the last 13 years. It's always been interesting to me, or at least since, I think it's been really interesting to me since 2011. Because I minted or mined Bitcoin back in 2009. I don't know if our community knows that story. So back in 2009, I was told by a friend that he had found this project called Bitcoin, and we should check our hash rates against one another. That's basically what it was for us at that point, was just an anonymous nerd flex online, similar to what we were doing with SETI at home or folding at home. It was just another way to measure your computational prowess. And then 2011, there was some activism and stuff that I was part of, and a not-for-profit that started up not too long after that, after a friend of mine, named after a friend of mine, who was a journalist and was murdered. But we received, or they received, donations in Bitcoin. So that was kind of the first prolific use of Bitcoin that I was involved in at that time. And And there's a lot of interesting characters. Austin and I were just talking about this, I'd say last night, but we were on the phone till 5 in the
6.
morning.
Oh no, it was close to 6.
It was so we got on the phone at what, 11?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then on and off going over press releases and all sorts of stuff, which is some other stuff we'll get into. But
Hey, just to bring
yeah,
it back to the start of like how we actually got started on.
yeah, go ahead.
You and I, before the beginning of last year, we were actually talking about doing some sort of company within the financial space. At first, that was going to be a financial app similar to like an investor club or something like that. And we realized there's a lot of litigation and things you have to deal with regarding that. So that just kind of evolved. And then at the height of the bull run, I created my own trading bot, and it was doing pretty well. And I tried to get Gary back into crypto, and finally did. And of course, literally, I think 2 weeks after he started using the bot and everything like that, the whole market tanked.
Yeah, like it does. I mean, that happens in this space. You watch it long enough. Like I've had my Coinbase account since 2014 when they first launched. Anyone who's been in the space for that amount of time remembers, like, people coming in now think that it's difficult, and for new users it is. We have a lot of challenges to overcome for new adoption. But back then, with just Mt. Gox and everything, before the Mt. Gox disaster, it was just a headache and a nightmare. And then Coinbase came out, and it was a huge breath of fresh air. I think anyone who says otherwise about that period doesn't remember it well. But yeah, that app idea was definitely cool, but it would have had some legal challenges with gamifying investing and trading and things. So that's kind of how that all got started. I see that Austin in text dropped some alpha already that we were going to wait on.
Whoops.
Whoopsie. I'll
He
wait
asked
to
the
drop it in the
question, I had
video.
to answer.
What's that?
He asked the question, I felt I had to answer.
Yeah. Let's see. So prices rise till 21st? 21st of October?
Sorry, Gary. There was one question by Gil. If you want to add, he asked before. Well, I guess this doesn't have to do with the NFTs, but he asked, how does Gauss verify its partners, and if you can explain that.
Oh, sure. We can go into that a little bit. It ties into the video that you put out today. So we have a long process that we're going to be developing for our vetting and curation process with Gauss. We just onboarded our project manager for that. His name's Gauss Derek. You might see him over there in the Gauss project lead. He's going to be heading up the curation process development, curation team building, and all of that. The first step in that process is likely going to be an internal review of the projects that want to apply with Gauss. Our team will have a checklist or point system, or however that ends up working out, to approve or deny them to move on to the next steps, which are going to be the KYB process, legal review, audits. Like, we're going to be doing a fairly in-depth dive for new projects that want to launch with us. We're honored to have you, Derek. It's going to be a lengthy process. We will be releasing more info within the next month or so, probably a whole video dedicated to that specifically. Once we get it a bit more fleshed out, that's why we're building that team. I have my vision for how that's going to look, but implementing that vision into an actual, standard operating procedure and process is it's a bit of work. At the start, it's likely not going to be massively scalable. It's going to be a lot of manual effort. We hope to get those projects that make it past that first step through the end of the process within 4 to 8 weeks. That's our goal. And there's a chance that we'll only accept, 1 or 10%, a small number of projects. Looking at the entirety of the crypto space, there's a lot of things we won't allowed to launch with Gauss. If it's just some random money grab or something with no utility or value, like they have other options. I wish them the best and hope their communities do well. But we want things that bring value to their communities. We don't want somebody coming in that says, "Well, we want to raise $5 million and have a dream of building with that." You know, we might get something done. We see that, I think, every day in this space, and that's not what we're looking for. Did you have anything to add on that one?
No, I was just going to tell you to tie that into the Omnipool, because the entire reason as why we want projects that actually will be profitable and aren't just money grabs is because of the Omnipool and the liquidity token that will result
Yeah,
out of
that's
that.
certainly part of it. I wouldn't say it's the only thing,
Sure, not
but
the only thing, but
right. But cutting those projects out of even being able to launch with Gauss does allow us to do some cool things, technologically speaking, with Gauss 2.0 being the Omnipool. That's one big part of it, because it prevents us from even having to worry about toxic assets being introduced into this Omnipool. We haven't talked a ton about Omnipool. We will have an AMA solely about that at some point. But if somebody launched an Omnipool on another chain, and they do exist, there's a couple of them out there, you have to whitelist every token that goes into it. Otherwise, a bad actor could just mint a token, wash trade a bunch, create a large fake valuation, pour it into the Omnipool, and extract real liquidity. So gating entry from the ecosystem from projects and tokens prevents that bad portion entirely. So I'm really looking forward to that. Sim and I were just chatting today about the Omnipool more, because he was showing me, what project was that? I feel like they had a hamster as their icon. Wombat. It was a wombat, not a hamster. But they launched.
it doesn't count.
Right? They launched a small basket of stables in a pool, kind of like Curve and Balancer do, because the liquidity efficiency there is just extraordinary. And this is what I think it's going to look like in the space in years to come, because the AMM system, Automated Market Maker, the XYK model that is, works so much better than the bid-ask ledger book system with traditional exchanges, Coinbase Pro and TD Ameritrade. And if you've ever traded stocks, that's what all those systems look like. So it's definitely more capital and liquidity efficient. There's a lot of awesome stuff there. Well, since you dropped that alpha, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and drop the image before we take another question. So, Austin in chat, what anyone watching or listening to this later hasn't seen yet, was he dropped the mini bomb that we've been saying thus far. Gauss is launching in Q4. We do have our target date already, but publicly we're announcing today that we're going to launch in the first half of Q4. And we'll narrow that down a little bit more over time. And we want to have a sort of guessing game with the community, give out some rewards to see if anyone can accurately guess within that, what would that be, about 45-day window. So first half of Q4, hopefully that bit of alfalfa, is enough to sate our community's curiosity about our launch date for now.
What are the prizes going to be for the contest?
What's that?
What are the prizes going to be for the guessing contest?
I was gonna say iron NFTs, but I think it's big enough that we might be able to do like a nickel NFT or a couple nickel NFTs for it. Maybe. We'll be announcing that this week, so we have a couple more days to decide on that. Yeah, I don't think the Gauss Guess launch channel is open yet, but that is, he already linked it. That's where the guessing contest is going to be. You just go in there and drop a date. And then the next announcement, we'll see who's within that range, and we'll keep narrowing it down, as we get closer to launch. So did we have another question, Alex?
Hello? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes. So there was one by Partisan. He was asking about the OG roll. He asked, OG roll is gone for future 50x iron NFT holders. That was the only first 10, I think. Let me try
So
to
we
connect
haven't
that
actually
question.
launched the OG role yet, and I'm not sure at what point we will, because we've had our first 1,000 minted, and that's roughly. Do you know how many holders we have, Austin? I think it's two and change, right?
Yeah, it's two. Yeah, I don't know the exact number. It
Two
is
and
two and change.
change.
Though.
So I'm not certain how many holders we want to encompass in our initial OG role, but I don't think we're there yet. It might look like the first 350, 400, or 500 people. Um, he might also be asked, he or she, they, might also be asking about the Guardians role that we gave to the first 10 50x Iron NFT holders. And the answer to that one is yeah, that's just going to the first 10. You can still get the Guardian role. The Guardians are like volunteer mods for us, the most active members of the community, as a way to reward them for participation. Our Guardians, their only real power in the ecosystem is being able to time people out. So it's a small little self-policing force there, but they also tend to know more about the project, answer questions, participate. Squig Hopper creates tons of hilarious fan content, which is awesome. But they also get to see some sneak peeks. For content that we're creating, they saw Alex's video that we released today. A couple days in advance, they've gotten a sneak peek of the Jensen and Jensen animated video that we're still working on. A bunch of other stuff. So hopefully that answers that one. And on the topic of ads, I think we should talk about. We had a press release go out today. A handful of ad stuff go out today. So I'm going to drop all of this. I'm going to bomb this board channel.
Just drop
What's
the press
that?
release for now. Drop your press release for now, and we'll drop the whole thing later.
No, I'm dropping it all, like in multiple chunks. I have all the links queued up in a separate window.
Fair.
So I came to this prepared. Look, we have prepared images. I have a whole prepared window, even though we're kind of meandering because we're just talking and it's cool like that. But if you check the stage board channel or somebody wants to copy some of that over, we had an awesome press release go out today. Cover of an e-publication, our 250th edition of Kryptonair Weekly. And we'll be promoting with them for the next couple months through October. But definitely check that stuff out. There'll also be links and stuff and an announcement later. But I do think it's worth mentioning for like a group like Sphere, marketing for them doesn't make sense right now, right? They already have a solid base. They have, I think, 36,000 holders, an extraordinary community over there, and they're focused solely on execution because that's right for them. For us, we have to market to continue growing our community, and we also need to begin getting content out there in front of some decision makers with brands. As we've talked about numerous times before, we have a bunch of warm leads that we're going to be targeting and approaching and talking to, but we also want others that are outside of our circles to reach out to us. And then in October, we'll also be working with a number of marketing agencies to bring them on board as affiliates so they can market our solutions and our ecosystem to their clients. So we have to, the point of all that is we have to market pretty constantly and consistently because of the scope, scale, and focus of what we're doing with Gauss. Do you have more to add to that, Austin?
Mm-mm. You did a good job. You're just
There
dropping
any
all
other
the alpha,
questions?
man.
Well, yeah, I mean, what do
Leave
you want to
nothing for
drop
the
some
rest of us.
alpha?
No,
What's that?
No, I'm good. I technically already dropped the alpha on the launch date, so
Yeah,
there's
you
that.
pre-leaked that alpha before we got even a chance to announce it. But hopefully this helps our community see that like we are doing a lot of things. I think as of today, I think we have 16 people on the team in various capacities. So there's a lot that our community doesn't get to see that is behind the scenes, and we'll be updating as we're able to update. With Derek's progress. Gerard is our in-house counsel now. Everyone met Mac last week, and his phenomenal beard. So we're growing. We're still, I think, a minority of the team, the great bearded folk, but we're growing in number.
Just want to add in, I'm trying myself, but not really working that well so far.
I know Shave
Oh,
November is coming up, so you have an excuse.
right? Yeah, we'll get you there. I don't have any secret tips for you or anyone else in the community about like ultra great beard tips.
Does Rogaine work?
I have no idea. It's not like I've tried. I was the kid, way before we knew each other, Austin. I was the kid who had mustache in high school. I was that kid.
Nice.
And that's saying something because I turned 17 my senior year. I was really young compared to everyone else. But yeah, that's first to make their beard into a Gauss logo wins a nickel. I'll commit an iron to it. If somebody does that, I'll give them an iron. Just go get your beard shaped as a Gauss logo.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll definitely commit to that. Or if like somebody shaved it into their head, if you're already shaving your head, why not?
I'll give extra points to anyone who actually braids it into the Gauss logo instead of just, hairsprays it into the Gauss logo.
Send us pictures. We need
Pixar
entertainment at that 4 a.m. point where we're still working on stuff. Yeah, Pixar, it didn't happen. Something else I wanted to do with this chat, because we still have a couple other things to talk about here. But Austin and I talk. I don't want to go into weeds, and I jokingly said if we talked about like the Spanish Inquisition or triremes or whatever other random ass topic that we go down rabbit holes. We're both the type of person that if we're curious about something or don't know something, we Google it, which often throughout our lives has led to very long, deep rabbit holes. You end up looking at NASA patents at 4 a.m. or some dumb shit. But we're both gamers. What can we talk about just personally? What do we bullshit about for a few minutes, Austin? What do you want to talk about?
Ooh, there's so many things that if we start that conversation, it's just going to go down into the weeds. But
that's fine. We can do that for 10 minutes. Why not?
I don't know. How about chat? How about chat offer up a topic and we'll just go down the rabbit hole?
Somebody.
Warzone with Gauss Gang?
I think he's talking about the game. I haven't actually played Warzone, and sadly, I don't think either of us get to play enough games these days either.
No.
Like,
I bought a brand new Xbox One X, or sorry, Series X now. I don't know, like 2 months ago, and I think I've actually played twice. That's how little time I have.
heard your Xbox fried.
Oh, yeah, it did. Well, there you go. I didn't know you knew that. Makes me sad.
Yeah, I was told that your Xbox got fried. I am a sad panda for you.
Yeah.
Favorite genre of games? I'll answer mine in a minute, but what's yours?
I don't think I have one. I've been gaming for a long time. Literally, my first system was an NES. And I know that I'm 30, so an NES for my first system is not quite age appropriate, but man, that was a great system. And then since then, I play all games. I mostly RPGs and first-person shooters, but I won't say no to most games.
See, my first games were Atari. The one I remember most distinctly is the Atari 2600. Like I didn't grow up wealthy or anything, but my grandmother had, she used to before I was born, or I guess after I was born for a while, owned a grocery store. And then after that, she just had a booth at a flea market in Rhode Island. God, what was the name of that place? I cannot remember what it was called. Used to have clam cakes there. Anyway, somebody would sell a used Atari and a whole milk crate full of games for, pennies. And so she would bring them home. So I got spoiled with that. Despite being, like I said, fairly poor, that was definitely a cooler early experience. I remember a ton of early games, but favorite genre of games, I like management and building games, RTSs, 4X games. A lot of those, like Factorio is great, Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, games like that I'm very big on, and I think that kind of shows when we played board games before, because we played a handful of board games over the years.
A handful?
Yeah, I'm
Man,
being facetious.
come on. Let's be real here. You have an entire wall of board games.
Well, they're in boxes right now because moving in here
Okay,
last
fair.
November, my TV still hasn't been unpacked. My TV in my bedroom is still sitting in its box on the TV stand for almost a year now. That was last November, December? I think it was December. It's just been in a box because I've not wanted to unpack it, because then I'll, get caught up in some series or something and binge watch something and a whole day's gone. And I haven't done anything for Gauss.
And that, by the way, Aussie code, that has totally happened in a couple of our games. And it mostly always comes down to somebody arguing over rules, even though they're very clearly and plainly stated in a rule book. But
yeah,
interpretation of rules.
We haven't played Axis and Allies, have we? The big board.
I think I've come over and I subbed for somebody, but I have not played it myself. Because that's like a week-long game, right? Or at least a 3 to 5 day long game.
We drag it out. We have some home rules and stuff that we baked into it because Keith and I have played it so many times that we have to mix things up. This is years. We've been playing one version or another of that game for years. So that was a few minutes. We can go back to Gauss stuff now.
We definitely dropped a few in the audience, but that's all right.
It is what it is. I think it's also important that the community gets to know us as people. That's part of what I wanted to do with this chat, is have these conversations, because we haven't gotten a chance to do that, I don't think, enough with our community. So I'm going to drop this. Some of you may have seen our roadmap, but if not, we finally had an image made for you to see the roadmap. It's in our white paper, which is in work still. We have Lauren and a professional writer also working on it, and we may have some graphic design work done with it as well. But our roadmap, we are in the phase 2 area of the roadmap. This will end up getting updated probably early next year after launch, after, we have a couple marquee partners that we've launched and announced with. There are a couple things on here that we are doing a bit earlier. We're going a bit quicker with our marketing strategy and planning. We're actually into, execution, with Mac leading the charge on that front, who's been doing a phenomenal job, onboarding people for our marketing team, building out a strategy, working with agencies, and he's only been at it for a couple weeks. So I think we're going to see a lot of awesome stuff there for the next 5 months, and hopefully significantly longer than that. We should be working, like I said earlier, hinted at earlier, should be working toward reaching out to marketing and talent agencies as affiliates or potential affiliates within the next month and a half, 2 months. By the end of October is the aim there, depending on when the assets get done. Did you want to talk about any dev stuff on the timeline?
Yeah, sure. I could drop a little bit. I could drop a little alpha, just a touch. But right now we have someone working, a web designer working on our website and the swap, and he actually has some previous experience working for both NASA and DreamWorks Animation. So we're very excited to have him on board and kind of see what he comes up with. Beyond that, I'm still working on the testnet right now, getting it all launched, audited, tested, all that jazz. So that should have some announcements on that coming up. We're obviously going to try to launch the testnet as soon as possible, so that we can have as many outside people hop in and bug test it. Probably going to do some bug bounties. We will announce those closer as we get there. What else we got? I miss anything?
The Gauss rocket ship entering competition with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Was that part of this? Oh, that's like phase 6. I'm sorry, that's phase 6.
Somebody also asked about Gauss Congress. That's a good.
Gauss Congress. What do you mean first Gauss Congress? Yeah, now I'm curious what you mean by that specifically. But yeah, so anyone have questions about, part of this was to answer your questions in the community. What do you have to ask us about anything? I see a couple questions being dropped in the doc. Let's see, I'll answer this one real quick. You have to drop pronunciation for your name, Zeillerei, one of our guardians, but I will butcher that if I try to pronounce it. The question was, so prices rise till the 21st of October. I started saying this one earlier. For the Iron NFT, can we expect a launch afterwards? That is an interesting assumption. And I can say that it will launch before the 21st, on the 21st, or after the 21st of October. So I hope that clears that up for you.
At some point in Q4.
Yeah, first half of Q4. Yep, we're not going to let you get us on that one. What else? We do have one other big thing to talk about, but I want to answer some questions first. We're stuck on phase 4. Audience is waiting for phase 9. I mean, we're not stuck on anything. I think, actually, that's an interesting point. Technologically speaking, and for what is required to launch, aside some of the auditing and testing and things like that, we could have launched earlier this year or at any other point, right? But it wasn't the right time. Since last year, we've wanted to launch Q4 of this year, because I have my own beliefs about the larger macroeconomic trends in the market as a whole. That's why we've targeted this time frame, when we want to launch. If we launched with our community, if you guys had supported us and bought NFTs, bought into the project last November, and then we lost 80-90% value, I'm pretty sure there'd be some upset people in our community. Launching at the bottom is better. We get to take a more realistic pace building. We get to approach a lot more of this in a more, in a mature and sensible fashion, as opposed to just being another degen play or some kids who raise $5 million and don't know what to do with it, stuff like that. This is definitely, we have our goals through the end of this year, next year, our 3 to 5 year goals, and our 10-year goals. That's the sort of scale that we're looking at and building toward and building back from. That's why we have, Pat on board as our CFO this early. That's why we have Lauren on board as our chief science officer, our blue shirt of the team.
Ozzy Co, just real quick on that. Are you asking if we're going to have tokens before our launch or after our launch? Because the NFTs will provide gang tokens on our ecosystem when we launch. We will not be doing tokens before launch, though.
Yeah, being a layer 1 blockchain, we have to have a native token or coin, which is gang for us. And I look forward to explaining to the community one day why it's called gang. There's definitely a good reason for it. I've said that before, and I want to tell you guys about it when we're able to capitalize on that opportunity, because it's one that somebody else could just swoop in, and I think it's awesome. Do you think that one's awesome? It's actually, when this whole thing going back to the very first question we had, when Gauss was first conceptualized, it wasn't Gauss. I think it was Austin and Lauren who came up with that, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
We hopped on a call, looked at random G letter or G names and words, and came up with Gauss for
Right.
hours.
Yeah. But the gang portion, originally it was going to be Gang Inc., and I was very excited about it, and called them with all that excitement, was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad we didn't go with Gang as the name of the company.
I mean,
No thanks.
I agree. I do think Gauss is a better name for it as a blockchain. I think it does position us better. But I think that keeping the token, the coin symbol and name as Gang is still the right move. You know why that is.
It definitely makes sense with what we're planning.
Right. So I think that one. I think once it happens, everyone will be like, "Oh, that's a really slick move." So
back to Aussie Co real quick. Yeah, Gary and I actually talked about that last night for a few hours. We're kind
that's
of
part of what we talked about.
Well, yeah, sure. We're kind of still deliberating on how we want to handle the migration. We're not sure if we want to just airdrop everything or if we want it to be a redeemable thing. The reason there is that there will still be some iron cards and nickel and everything else that are going to be released after we launch. So if we just airdrop tokens to every holder, that's something we'll have to continue to do afterwards. So it might be a redeemable, interior site where you just go and click a button, you burn the Polygon version of the Iron Tier card, and then you get your Gauss Gang version, and then another redeemable button where you can get your gang tokens. But again, we have plenty of time to really hone in on that process, so none of that is set in stone just yet.
Right, and part of our concern there is also wallets, right?
Right.
MetaMask works with our blockchain. There are a number of other integrations it's going to take time for a layer 1 blockchain to get integrated with many other wallets, unless we get really rapid integration with like Wallet Connect, for example. But there's still going to be challenges there. And what we don't want to see happen is for somebody to lose their NFTs because there's a hole there and it gets sent to, a wallet that can't receive from our network.
Right. Because the way that MetaMask works is if it's an Ethereum-based blockchain, it is the exact same address no matter which blockchain you're on. So obviously that works for MetaMask, but not everybody uses MetaMask. Some people use Coinbase, SafePal, everything else like that. Coinbase, for example, rotates through a block of random addresses for every single asset. So if we were to go airdrop, there is a very high likelihood that some people just wouldn't receive their tokens and new NFTs.
Yeah, I'm still uncertain how that actually works. We've talked about this before. It's a convoluted. I get why they do it.
It sketches me out that every time I go to deposit USDC or whatever, that it's a different address. I know it works, but I still don't like it.
Right. But I'm not actually certain that you ever lose access to receive to the address like it's committed to you, I think, and it just adds to a growing list, if I'm not mistaken. It's just, I don't know. There are, I think, better ways to handle it. I like their batch transactions where they batch you in with dozens of other people potentially, moving Ethereum or USDC or whatever else at a time. Somebody asked about what our thoughts were on the ETH merger, and I think we could talk briefly on the ETH merger and on what Binance just did, because I think it's interesting. Binance, because we talked about that this morning, right? About Binance kicking all the other stable coins to the curb but USDT. They converted everything to BUSD. It's an interesting move because they're one of the largest players in the space, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of USDT.
Same.
I think anyone that's serious in the space, if you compare USDC and USDT side by side, they're not even in the same league. You know,
No.
USDC is ultra transparent. They go well above and beyond to be reputable, whereas USDT is the exact opposite.
Yeah, I was going to say USDC is an actual one in, one out protocol. So you
Right.
put in $1, you get $1 out. It is always going to be that. It will always have the liquidity to back that transaction. But USDT, I don't know, they don't release their treasury information. They have a lot of non-government U.S. bonds and random things. I don't know. That's sketchy. They've had a few lawsuits against them, and I think the only reason they made it out is because they are the most traded stablecoin in the cryptosphere.
Right. They're basically a pillar.
Yeah.
And that's something else that came up in our conversation this morning. I actually know back from that 2011 time period, I know ironically, one of the founders of USDT back during the early activism and blockchain days. Interesting character, lots of history around all of that, and the charity I was speaking about earlier, Sean's Outpost and Satoshi Forest and all that stuff. The
Especially he
ETH
was a
merger,
child star in Mighty, what is it?
Mighty Duck.
Ducks, Mighty Ducks, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
But
Just want to add in, there was a question by Saz. I'm just going to call you Oz for now, but he asked, or she asked, can you talk about some differences between Gauss 1 and Gauss 2.0? Austin, I guess that might be a question in your alley, I suppose.
Well, we talked about a little bit of it earlier with the Omni pool. That's really going to be the biggest change. There's also going to be we're going to be developing our own NFT protocols. We really want to change the NFT game. I didn't actually mean to use the word game there because I was going to transition into the reason why is because we want to introduce NFTs into games and allow you to either upgrade them over time or transfer them from one game to the next and things like that. And the current protocols that are in place for NFTs cannot do that. So
right,
between
there's a lot missing there, a lot that needs to be developed over the coming years, and I want us to be, at the forefront of a lot of that development because we have the ability as a centralized blockchain. It's one of our strengths is that we don't have a ton of open source developers just freely working on the ecosystem, but we will have our internal developers and we will work with others. We'll work with open source developers. I'm open to it, but we can execute at speeds that Ethereum can't. And back to, I think it was Surma brought it up about the ETH merge. They've been working on that for 5 years. Not knocking Ethereum, they're still king of the hill. And a lot of what exists now is because of the work that VB and others have done with Ethereum. But it's very slow moving. When you have that large open community, there's thousands of EIPs or proposed protocols that will never see the light of day, and some of them are great. And it's just because somebody doesn't have enough backing or isn't in the cool kids club of Ethereum. And that's something else that kind of bugs me about that community is that they're already very cliquish. And I hope that with their merger, they're able to grow out of that a bit more. It's no longer going to be just the, Bored Ape Club and other big projects. Basically, crypto millionaires' playground. That's what Ethereum has been for a while. And I hope it evolves past that, now grows it with the merger, move to proof of stake and all of that. But that should be coming up, I think, in a week and a half or so.
Yeah, they've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, but I think the tests have gone well. You're not wrong. But they have also shaved out enough of the other parts that I think just handling the merger, they're not launching the 64 shards that was part of their ETH 2.0 plan. That's been put off indefinitely. There's a lot of things that have been put off indefinitely that hopefully they're able to handle the merger itself right now. I wish everyone the best. That's something else I think a lot of people don't understand about projects or spaces or anything is that we want everyone else to succeed. We're doing this our way because this is how we see the space getting better. This is what we can contribute. We could have launched another decentralized blockchain, but why? There's enough. there's not a lot of what we're building. So what other questions do we have? Will there be whitelists for non-NFT holders?
Yep.
I'm not sure what you mean by that, OzzyCo. Right now, the open sale or the sale for iron NFTs is open. Nickel NFTs will have a whitelist, as will cobalt. We won't, we're still working with the date that we're going to release the nickel NFTs. But cobalt, we will not be releasing until we have thousands and thousands of people in our community, and we're confident that that can sell out, very rapidly over the course of 1 to 2 days, with 1 mint per wallet. We're going with a slow build and then have a big bang at that point. I do recognize we're almost at an hour. Oh, for the native token, that's what you're asking about for the whitelist. So I actually just sent an email to our attorneys talking about future plans for token sales, because I had a meeting with a VC group yesterday morning at 2:30 in the morning. Yeah, it was yesterday morning. Yesterday morning. About potential market making with them. What we don't want to do is sell a huge chunk of token to VC companies or VC firms that are just going to dump them on the market. I want them to either be locked up or vested or something. So there's still conversation, negotiation going on there. But as far as a public token sale goes, I'm not entirely certain yet. We do have 60 million is our initial supply. 27-ish million is allocated to the Ferro card NFTs. So we still have a significant amount more that we need to sell or distribute or whatever. Some of it's going to be used for grants. Some of it's going to be used for liquidity with projects launching with us, all that stuff. So I'm not entirely certain. But your question here does give me a perfect segue to the last thing that I wanted to talk about. Or last piece of, I guess, alfalfa that we're dropping is, in addition to the Ferro cards, we are announcing that we're going to be releasing another type of NFT. They're kind of going to be fractional Ferro cards. So they're going to be super duper cheap, and it's more a way for us to have an interesting and fun, engaging way of distributing our token, If you go look at the board, and I'll drop it up here in QA as well, this isn't set in stone, no pun intended.
All the puns intended.
All the puns intended. But that chart right there is kind of what it's going to look like. We're going to have this NFT campaign that increases price across the numbers sold up to probably 500,000 to 700,000 of them. And yes, that is a huge number. But again, we're talking $1 to $1.50 NFTs. The goal here is that with each of those, you'll be able to burn them for Gang, our native token. Depending on the tier, kind of like a Kickstarter campaign with unlocks, depending on the tier, the whole community enriches these or NFTs. So a higher chance, each of them will have a higher chance of being iron or potentially nickel or cobalt. Holders could then take 100 of the iron NFTs, burn those into a contract, and get an actual iron NFT out. So you take 100 iron ore in, get an iron NFT out. I think it's different. It's more fun, in my opinion, than just a boring ass token sale. That's my take on it. I'm curious to see what the community thinks now that we're talking about this. We don't have dates that we're announcing yet for it. It'll be sometime between now and launch. It'll run for a set number of weeks before it's cut off. So either the total number of them will be minted, or we'll hit that timeline and then just distribute all of them. So I'm curious to see, how that goes, how the community perceives this. Because I don't know, I think it's fun. That's what I want to have fun.
Yeah, I agree. It also kind of harkens back to us being nerds and loving video games and RPGs. Reminds me of playing Oblivion or Skyrim, and
Right, it's a loot
minting
table. That's
silver.
basically what we're doing is, yeah, if we sell 500,000 of them, you're locked into that level of the loot table, and that's what we're minting. Well, they'll probably be minted when they go ahead and buy them, but you won't see the reveal of what ore type they are until the end of the sale. Again, it's just something that I think is fun and engaging and different. Because that's something else we're going to be doing with Gauss, right? People have asked what we're going to do with tokenized campaigns with brands. We're going to come up with shit for years. Their teams are going to come up with stuff. Marketing teams are going to come up with interesting and engaging ways to do things. And it'll only get better as we continue to move forward across years and working with brands and building tokenized campaigns and reward programs and loyalty programs and NFT ticketing and all sorts of cool shit. Lots to look forward to there. So, did we have more questions? I can't tell if Alex, his
I'm right
mic
here.
is... Oh, okay. You've just had the green border this whole time.
Yeah, I guess my soundboard automatically makes me, like, I don't know, talking all the time for some reason, but I'm
Forever.
not actually talking. But in terms of questions, I don't think anyone's asking questions that much, which I am a little bit surprised.
Yeah,
So
likewise.
so if anyone has like questions about the Ord NFTs, how it works, post them up on the board.
Let's see. I see one that asked when AlphaNet, and I think Austin already kind of answered that earlier. We're going to be pushing it out pretty soon because we want people to be able to play with it and poke holes in it if they can and all that fun stuff. And Sphere and Co needs it to build.
I want you to break my toys so that I can
Yeah.
build them better.
Ozzy just made a statement that's they said will be a nice entry point for small fish like myself to get involved. That has been one of the big goals with this launch and a challenge in figuring out how we want to do our NFT and token sales and whatnot, right? Both with the legal and regulatory environment that we have to dance around, but also because like we capped the sales of Iron NFTs to 50 per wallet because we don't want somebody coming in dropping tons and tons of cash. I want them in our community, but when we're mature enough to be able to support that sort of buy-in, right? Nothing against whales, but they help and harm a community. Their goal is profit, and I fully believe in and support that goal for them. However, when somebody with $500,000 into a project wants to capture their gains, it hurts the community at large. And that's something I want to actively avoid as much as possible with Gauss. Because what are we doing this for if not for the community that we're building, right? Protecting our ecosystem doesn't just mean keeping bad actors out of launching projects. It means protecting our community and our ecosystem in every way that we can. And that's part of it, right? It would be easy for us or easier for us to raise capital if we went with the cobalt sales first, for example, or if we did hunt after lots of large fish or remove the per wallet limit. I think things would look a little bit different right now, but the community is more important. We're willing to be on the path that we're on. We're all confident with the plan. Yeah. Fair Pew Pew owns entire supply. Nah, he owns 50. He owns 50 iron out of presently, if we don't count Spheres, because Sphere owns 3,000, but they can't dump them on the market. Part of our agreement with Sphere is that we can't sell their token, they can't sell ours. It's to be used for liquidity within our ecosystem. But yeah, so he owns, what percentage even is that? We have,
Is that also counting the contest wins from Wing and Ding?
no, just the ones minted so far. Like he owns less than 5% so far. I think it's 4-ish percent. ish. Ishk. What else? Come on, guys. We still got 10 more minutes. What other questions we got? I want to answer questions. I think our community knows that we love questions around here. Maybe we've answered too many questions over the course of time. That like our community just doesn't have enough questions for us anymore.
That's a good question for you to answer from Ozzyco.
Oh, okay. So Ozzyco asked, are you guys testing any blockchain games at the moment? I've only really played a few Gala games, and I quite like the aspect of owning and trading in-game NFTs. So if you look up at the events, next week, next Monday, we have a fireside chat about blockchain gaming. We haven't announced the guests in that yet, but I'll drop some of that here now. One of our guests for that is going to be DNP3, which I will drop his Twitter right now. I cannot confirm that they will be launching with Gauss. I'll bring it up next week, and I can say it now-ish that we've talked about it, but it wouldn't happen for quite some time. Their project still needs some room to develop. I've helped develop their tokenomics. I can be confident, since we're talking about it next week, that I can say that. We want a bunch of games to launch with Gauss. There's none that we can officially announce at this point, and none that are testing because our testnet's not even up yet. What I'm really interested in is once we, as Austin was talking about earlier, get some of our unique NFT protocols up and begin testing those, because we're going to probably work with some developers to create some fun tests for some of these NFT protocols. We've talked about some ways to do that. There might be IP that we work with to launch some of those. It's hard to dance around this topic. I can say that it's a topic that is being discussed and there are conversations going on. I can also say for anyone else that is developing games in this space, reach out to us. We are interested. If you're willing to go through our vetting process, our ecosystem sounds like a good fit for you, come talk with us, because that is going to be another core component of our ecosystem. For some of the larger projects, we'll be able to launch an entire, blockchain, a layer 2 for them as a solution. Still part of our ecosystem, but give them the transactional bandwidth that they can't get without having their own blockchain. So it's definitely oh, go ahead.
Anytime that you can separate, those complex actions into another layer 2, that makes the entire ecosystem more safe, because if something breaks inside of there, it doesn't break the whole system. It only breaks in that layer 2. So that's kind of the idea. We will probably have many layer 2s that all have their own singular function for that exact reason.
Right. And it makes the whole thing more efficient. We've talked about our TPS and everything, 8,000 transaction per second. We're not going to touch that for a while, but games will. We will see some of that with games that begin doing more on-chain transactions instead of processing a lot of things off-chain. And I think that's a really interesting use case for it. But by giving them their own chain or chains in some cases, it just streamlines the whole thing as well. We're not clogging up the entire network with minting, a bunch of wood NFTs for somebody that's mining wood in a game, or gold or whatever. Definitely looking forward to all that stuff. So hopefully that answers your latest question, Ozzyco. What else do we got? Yep, we've got about 5 minutes left. When IRL events. So jokingly, I'm going to say half jokingly because I was only half joking. Early on, I think it was later last year, right, that I brought up doing a festival. It's something we're going to do at some point because of my background in the event and entertainment industry, directing music festivals and stuff. We're definitely going to have some sort of music festival and or convention with Gauss. Probably won't happen until 2024, though, if we're being real and honest about it. Those take about 6 months to plan properly. I've done it in 10 weeks. One of the first ones that we did, we planned from start to gate in 10 weeks, and I don't suggest anyone ever attempt that ever again. But down the road. Oh, we do have another question. Do we have lower limit when we stop minting? Not sure what you're asking. He's asking about, or they're asking about Iron NFTs, and posted, there's 4,230 of 15,000. Do we have lower limit when stop minting? Yeah, I know you're talking about Ferro cards. I'm not sure about the wording of the question.
Maybe he's asking, is there a limit at which we just decide to stop minting them if we don't mint out the entire 15,000?
So the answer to that is no. And there's a couple reasons for it, the largest of which is that this is also a means by which we are distributing our native token. If we flooded the holders at a lower number, it would not help our ecosystem in the long term, right? If you look at it right now, I don't want to speculate on a future price of anything because, laws. But I can say that at its current price, if the Iron NFT had zero value, if nobody cared about its value at all, which I think is a mistake, but if you didn't care at all, then at the $110 price point, they are 22 cents per gang allocated to that NFT. If you looked at the total initial circulating supply of roughly 60 million, that's, what is that number? It's about 13 million would be our market cap. So I think for a layer one blockchain tackling what we are tackling with the potential marquee partners that we're going to be launching with and announcing, that is a remarkably conservative estimate for our market cap at launch. And if you look at other layer one launches, they run the gamut from doing basically free mint, right, fractions of a penny mint, up to 20 to 30 million market cap. There are outliers in the hundreds of millions, but I think this is a fair and realistic expectation of our initial fundraising, because that's the other side of it, right? A lot of this is to raise funds for both working capital and liquidity. So lowering the total number of those NFTs doesn't help the community. It doesn't help the project. It doesn't help our market cap. It doesn't help realistically in any way. If we were a degen, quick flip NFT project, sure, I'd see it. But that's not at all the case here, and that's not what we're, intending to build. It's not what we are doing with these NFTs. Hope that answers that question. What else we got?
Real quick, too, just to bring it back to the NFTs, you were saying that there is obviously far more value in it than just the initial gang. It's going to be stuff like that festival. If you run that festival, either iron, nickel, or cobalt would be, gain free entry and stuff like that. Have whitelist for our partners. There's so much that's baked into the NFTs beyond just the gang that it's going to be worthwhile to hold for a while.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll commit to it now. Our first festival and/or convention, all the Cobalt holders get free VIP. Play this back. Yeah, there's so much that we're going to be pumping into those. Like, I'm a big Gary Vee fan in a number of ways, and I think what he's doing with their campaign with VeeFriends, he said he's willing to let every other endeavor of his, VaynerMedia and everything else, go under to support VeeFriends. He intends to pump value into those NFTs and that project, that community, for the rest of his life and beyond. And that's what we want to do with our NFTs here too. I've called them, we just talked about this yesterday, that I've frequently called them magnets for rewards and keys for exclusive opportunities, because that's what they are over a long timeline. Like, you hold the thing, you get airdrop things, you get to go to events, you get all sorts of stuff. Oh, I can also say, since we talked about the OR NFTs, that when we release them, all iron holders will be getting airdropped some Aura NFTs. What that number looks like, it might be 1 or 2 per iron NFT. It's not going to be tons, but it's something. And it's stuff like that you can do over a very, very long time span that is interesting, that is engaging, that's rewarding, that's fun. We have our own phone app that opens up a lot more opportunities. That might happen mid-late next year with Gauss 2.0. By the way, we don't want to do a phone app right now. We could do it, but then we just have to redo the whole damn thing with Gauss 2.0, and that's more work than it's worth, in my opinion. It's just worth waiting 9 months for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because with Gauss 2.0, there's a high chance that we're going to have our own wallet at that point. So that we would literally have to redo the entire app.
Yeah. There's just so many headaches from that. Like for Gauss 2.0, we talked about it earlier, but we may end up making some very, very fundamental changes to the underlying blockchain architecture, and thus rather than launching a new Genesis with the existing, moving to a new blockchain and then deprecating the original. The entire blockchain history is still immutable and exists in the ecosystem, but the transactions would happen potentially on a new blockchain. Something we've talked about.
Either that or we pull something like Binance did with BSC and a light client. Yeah, do a light client on top of the original blockchain.
A lot of development to go before we even get there.
But DT Mike had a good question. I don't know if you see that in there.
Okay, so Asma, do we know when we will receive the NFTs with the actual mint number on them?
He's asking when we're going to reveal them.
Yep. It'll probably be sometime after launch. And there's a couple things here with it. One, we have to get a render farm to render out 24,680. That's the actual number of iron NFTs. If you go back through posts and everything, the total number of the collection for iron NFTs is 24,680. Numbered 3D rendered files, which is a lot. Like, it's a task. And then you have the nickel and cobalt on top of that. So it'll be,
and beyond that as well, like, because the iron and maybe the ore will be released before launch, but everything else is going to be released after launch. We would have to deal with 2 sets of reveals, and you're going to end up migrating it over to DOS chain anyway. So it kind of just makes sense to reveal it at that point.
Right. And by the way, for the ore, I think we're going to go with a 2D for that actual reason, because God for fucking bid that we have 700 of them minted, or 700,000 of them minted at, again, $1 to $1.50 each. So it's not crazy, not hundreds of millions of dollars or something. That's a lot of files. So I think the 2D route is definitely the right way to go there. Because across the Ferro cards, there's 33,814 across the 3 tiers, by the way. So, all right, now we're getting more questions. So, have you picked any, Alex?
Well, this one was, I was gonna ask about Pabs, and I'm not sure if it was him, but someone else in the previous AMA asked the same thing. But can you confirm any big partnerships or companies or projects coming into Gauss? Especially interested if there are any traditional non-crypto companies that might join Gauss.
So we've been asked this a lot over the last couple months, and we're going to be asked a lot of this forever, I imagine. And not that we can announce yet. Until an agreement is made between both parties in any sort of thing like this with a large business, you can't go to public announce those things. You can, it's just not a good business practice, and things can fall apart even after the initial phases. But for some of the large, like any Fortune 500 company, it's probably going to be a 3 to 6 month process of negotiation before we can even announce, right? For some of the, music brands, right? Individual artists and whatnot. Those negotiations get a bit easier because you're working with their agents, their management teams, that sort of, and the artists themselves. So those can happen more rapidly, which is why I'm aiming for Q4 and Q1 of next year to announce some of those, three of which would be recognizable household names. One that we're setting a meeting up with late this month, early next month, I believe. Sim knows that name, and Sim's in Germany, and Sim recognized the name. So it's hard to dance around. I really, really wish I could drop some of that alfalfa, but it just would not be responsible. Nope, you're not. I'm pretty tight-lipped on it. I'm willing to dance around it, but I can't directly point at it. I can also say that if you look at some of the marketing agencies that will be listed as affiliates with us, you can look at their client lists and picture who they're marketing to include Jensen and Jensen, because they have an existing client list on their site, and they will likely be an affiliate. We've had that conversation. I can talk about that because we've already engaged with them. So I can hint at things.
Partners that we just what did we confirm that with last week or 2 weeks ago?
What's that?
As far as House of Obsidian and all that.
Oh, well, Obsidian, I mean, that's a strategic partnership, right? And we have a handful of those that are going to be announced as well as part of the, our vetting process in that strategic capacity. And then we have affiliate, relationships with marketing agencies, talent agencies, things like that, of all scales, from the smaller all the way up to the largest. There's a lot that we're working on. Can't talk specifics.
And no, it's not a German company. He was simply saying that because Sim is in Germany and he recognized the name, but it's not.
Yeah, I was saying Sim recognized the name of the individual, what can I, celebrity. He recognized that name. I can say celebrity. That works. So we're definitely looking forward to a lot of that.
I think that we have one question by Sporkman, and he asked that, what are your thoughts on whitelist requirements for subsequent NFTs?
So I'm curious if you're asking about our NFTs or other ones launching with Gauss. With our NFTs, we've already spoken a little bit previously about the whitelist requirement, or who we're guaranteeing whitelists for nickel and cobalt NFTs. There is not going to be a whitelist for the Aura NFTs. That's going, when it launches, that'll just be an open sale, and first come, first serve. Get in early before the prices increase, and tell people about it so you hit higher tiers, sort of situation. For other projects launching in Gauss, that's going to run the gamut. Like if we have some musician launching with Gauss, they'll probably whitelist, some group of their audience, or people who buy an album or download something or participate in some way. There's all manner of ways that can be handled in the future. Yep. I think we're at an hour, and I think this is our longest one so far, an hour and 20 minutes. So anyone have one last awesome question for us? One last awesome question. Bueller. Man, when did that movie come out? You've seen it, Austin.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, you're not that much younger than me, but I'm trying to think, like...
Yeah, but I like movies, so I've seen a lot of movies.
Fair. And aren't they doing a remake?
I hope not. Some movies just stay great, and they don't need to be remade.
Agreed. I see Pabs typing, so maybe that's a final question for us. 1986 is when Ferris Bueller came out. Yep. That sounds about right. Such a good damn movie. Oh, did I put you on under the spotlight there, Pabs. My apologies. Stop saying your name. I'm just waiting for one good question. Answer that one, and then we wrap. Okay, the
That's a pretty
question,
good
he's going to
question.
elaborate, but or they're going to elaborate. The question is, are you thinking about digital ownership on Gauss? And then there's a follow-up explanation here, so we'll wait for that, answer that, and then wrap. I did, in the meantime, want to say thank you all for joining in, listening in. I think we're probably going to do these more frequently between now and launch, maybe once every other week, or perhaps even a little bit more than that. Definitely stay tuned to the events in our Discord. Hit that little interested button for next week's Fireside Chat. The one at the end of September, which is going to be about DeFi. I'm going to drop that right now. It's going to be about DeFi, and we're going to have some cool guests. Sim is going to be on that one. Drew Wolfer is going to be on that one, and potentially a third guest. So that one will be fun as well. That's alfalfa that I'm probably not even going to drop on the event until later this week.
This is a pretty long question by Pabs. Oh, there we go.
Explanation. But yeah, all right. So you're going to work with music artists and people. We'll be able to buy songs or albums from those artists. Would be awesome if there would be a Web3 player or something that reads the songs from your wallet and plays your songs. Okay, so about digital ownership in that regards. Yeah, it's something we'll work with. It's something we, like, in my vision of NFT protocols that we want to explore. It's not something that I foresee Gauss building, but something that we do work with somebody else to launch in our ecosystem. Like, there's a couple interesting projects that have started down that path. I don't think anyone's executed very well on it because there is still a large gap between the Web 2 and Web 3 worlds. I'm all about digital ownership and exploring the possibility of actually giving users the rights to those things, even outside those players, right? Like if somebody else makes another player, they can play them in whatever other third-party source. Like that should always exist, as opposed to right now, if you buy a movie on Amazon or Netflix or whatever, you quote-unquote supposedly own that movie, but if they stop carrying that movie, you can lose access to it. Same with games and all of that. Like that level of, in my opinion, archaic digital rights management it needs to evolve. It really, really does. And I think there's a lot of other benefits and come from there that we're already seeing some people play with. I know a handful of artists have explored the idea of royalties and communally sharing revenue streams, which I think is an interesting aspect. Short answer, yes. It's something we're going to explore. It's something we want to build protocols to support. And we're looking forward to solving that because, again, I think with Gauss, we can do it in a way that other blockchains cannot. Because if anyone, remembers the old P2P days of LimeWire or BearShare or any of those file sharing systems, if you tried to download a song on those, you had a 1 in 40 chance of getting the song or just getting noise or getting some porn ad or any number of other things, which is hilarious.
Viruses. You can't
lots of viruses. Lots of viruses. Which is something else that we're going to see happen at some point in a lot of these ecosystems, is once it gets mature enough, I think we'll see that sort of sophistication, right? And we kind of are in some ways with some of these scams as they're getting more sophisticated, but that's something we get to avoid with Gauss, right? Like, you don't get to launch smart contracts on Gauss without us giving the thumb up on that contract. So, yeah, smart viruses, right? So I hope that answered your question. I hope everyone enjoyed this AMA. I'm definitely looking forward to having some more of these. I think it was awesome. Thank you, Alex and Austin. Do you guys want to say bye to our our amazing community.
No, I mean, you get it. Thanks for joining in. We appreciate your time, and I hope we get to do a lot more of these. Hopefully next time we can bring on some more of the team members and just kind of have a team chat.
Yeah.
That might be better suited for a fireside chat, but either way.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for timing and stuff as well. Probably around the same time as this one, but lining up, probably keep it to 3 or 4 other people, maybe a team. We could have Derek and another person from the curation team on, or marketing and stuff like that. So looking forward to it all, and thank you guys all for your support. Keep asking questions. We love them. We're very open to answering questions, and we're active in our community. So I think we're gonna have some cool lo-fi outro music, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.
Yeah.
Have a great one.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone for joining. Let's put this on first. Yeah, there we go. I just wanted to press that button for now. But yeah, we're gonna play one more outro music, and yeah, thanks again for everyone for joining, and then we're gonna close the chat from there.